So are you ready for the main event of Raw?
Sure.
Hold on here.
Oh boy, the audio died midway through it. So maybe that's fitting.
Son of a Oh, well. It's these new audio filters you got. The main event of Raw was a promo, as usual. And they played the music, and here, of course, they played packages all night where you understand what happened in the big matches at Raw. So everybody was ready for this. The music plays, burn it down. And here came Seth Franklin Rollins and his new, I don't know what he'll be here, not wise man, advisor, advocate, whatever. Paul Heyman. Should they now change the music to music? Should they now change the music to burn it down and eat it up? What about burn it down and then lose the weight?
Oh, listen. What exactly is he burning down?
Well, how much weight is Paul losing? See, you can ask a lot of questions. But here, go ahead.
If he's a heel, should he be coming out there with the music, dancing, and giving the audience time to get into it?
Well, that's the point I was going to make is here is the Paul Heyman has just stabbed his best friend in the back and betrayed his wise man. And this is the guy, Seth Rollins, that has beaten both of the people's heroes. And they've been doing it by hitting people with chairs and kick them in the balls. And when they come out, the fans wooed as much as they ever did. And when the music faded down, they cheered Seth and kept singing. They like everybody. And the chance there was a small thank you, Seth. But then there was a bigger CM Punk. And then a little smaller OTC. And then a little bit bigger. Fuck you, Heyman, because everybody could agree on that, right? At least there's some things that brings humankind together. And Seth was just standing there milking it so they could chant for everybody they liked and, assisted living. I mean, they're chanting for everything. And he said, I took a wise man from Roman Reigns and I stole CM Punk's best friend. And now I'm the undisputed reigning blah, 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 champion. I am the winner of the main event at WrestleMania. I am. And suddenly, like Mussolini and a roll of tape, wrapping up his fist to fight, here comes CM Punk to save the night. And he's going to hit Paulie. Punk comes down the aisle. He is taping his fists already. He's ready to, it's clobbering time. And he immediately slides in and he and Seth go to the fight. And he takes Seth to the corner and he's beating the shit out of him. Boom. And he's kicking him. Boom, boom, boom. And Paul is looking like he's trying to sneak up behind him or he didn't know what. But Paul could creep a little bit quicker. Paul's not very mobile these days. But Punk turns to Paul and Paul sees him and the people chant, you fucked up, you fucked up. And Punk grabs Paul and takes him into the corner. And then Seth is back up and he's in Punk's eyes and he rakes his eyes and he gives Punk the curb stomp. And that's when the fans are chanting OTC and we want Roman. And then Paul got the microphone and started talking while Seth was carefully standing on Punk's head to keep him down. There's a new top star in this entire industry, Seth Franklin Rollins. That's kind of what he said. And as soon as Paul said that, music hits. Here comes Roman. And so now Seth throws Punk out of the ring. He's got to be down there selling. And Roman comes to the ring and he slides in and spears the shit out of Seth. And Paul again is transfixed like, oh shit. And Roman spins around and hits Paul with the Superman punch. And Paul Heyman took a bump that made Ox Baker look like Bobby Eaton. I swear to God, I don't know if every part of his body actually at the same time ever left the mat. I think he rolled on the side of his foot and kind of went down from calf to thigh to hip, a lot of hip. Am I lying about this description?
No.
If ropes hadn't been there, he would have rolled all the way to goddamn Paradise, Nevada.
He is brilliant on the mic, but whether it's creeping up behind someone or getting ready for a nut shot or this, he can't do anything physical without it being kind of awkward, let alone bumps, which he never took. Even in his prime, he couldn't take bumps.
I was about to say, I had that issue trying to work with him 35 years ago, 200 pounds ago. But nevertheless, he stuck his chin right out there and he was there for it. And he rolled to the ground. And then Roman was backing up and he's going to spear Paul. And I've got to think at that point, if Roman Reigns was to spear Paul Heyman, they'd get a lawsuit because Roman would bounce over the top rope and out at least into the second or third row. And he'd land on one of the fans. But as he's setting up for the spear, Punk sees that. Or I'm sorry, not Punk, but he's setting up for the spear on Paul is Roman. And that's when Braun Breaker suddenly appeared and speared the fuck out of Roman. And he revealed himself under his hoodie.
Yeah, he was wearing a hoodie. He was covered up, so you didn't know who it was at first.
Yeah, you had no idea. Well, you had no idea when this fucking giant figure comes in with the greatest spear ever. Boom. We think it's Braun. But he unmasks Braun, and that's when Punk came in and tried to save Paul, and Braun speared him. Or tried to get to Paul, rather, and Braun speared him. And then Seth hugged Braun, and Braun went to Roman, and Roman punched Braun. See, that's what it was. And Braun, in retaliation to being punched by Roman, ran a loop around the ring and speared Roman through the barricade. And then they got him down, and Braun held Roman while Seth stomped Punk and then turned around and stomped Roman. So once again, Punk and Roman have been left laying at the hands of Seth Rollins, and now the future of the wrestling business, Braun Breaker. You know, it's amazing how that nobody saw that Braun Breaker is the future of wrestling and is a main event superstar and needs to be shot to the top right away. It could have happened maybe even quicker, but nobody saw that. Did they, Brian?
You have a good track record the last several years. And on this show, or this company particularly, Jacob Fatu, Braun Breaker, you know, technically, Seth Rollins. Because again, it all goes back to the beginning. He could have been in TNA if someone didn't say this guy could be a star if he goes there now.
Just please don't sign that contract, sir. Please, I'm begging you. $40,000 a year. I believe it was what I was hearing. They were going to give him a guarantee for a certain amount of dates with a minimum of $40,000 or something like that. But they ended up running about half as many dates as was promised in the contract that they had showed him the following year. So
what do you think of Heyman having a group? At a minimum, it's going to be just these two, but we'll see what happens. But what do you think of Braun Breaker and Rollins together?
I think this is perfect because we said Seth, was being kind of received as a whiny heel in this. And then they've had this, obviously they didn't just make this decision last week. So they knew they were going in this direction. And Paul needs to be a heel. We've been saying that, but they don't want to switch Roman back because he's part-time and they ain't going to switch Punk. Seth is, I think, going to be fresher because of this. And at the same time, Braun being involved and being able to sit under, I don't know if Paul has a learning tree or if he's just more like a Buddha type figure. No pun intended to some of these people. But Paul can really be hands-on helping Braun. And Braun being with Paul Heyman, the guy that was just with Roman Reigns and CM Punk, and Seth Rollins, a guy that just main evented WrestleMania, it makes him look like a bigger star. He's not playing with the children anymore. So they just had to get that pesky belt off of him so they could elevate him. I believe we talked about that.
I really love where this is going. And then, Punk and Roman are going to have to get together and kind of work together and say, who can we call that could outsmart Heyman? And then they can call you. And then we get you against the two guys that you picked that Heyman somehow with, you guiding these guys, and then the battle over who gets Brock.
No, I think they ought to call Stephen P. New. I thought that's where you were going.
Oh, no, I was going to you.
Don't call me. Don't call me. I'll call you. Don't call me. I'll call you. But in the meantime, call Stephen P. New. 877-50 Steve.
Well, again, sneak attack.
No, they're not setting anything up to call me to fucking. No. If nominated, I will not run. If elected, I will not serve. But nevertheless, but yes, Heyman is putting together another dangerous alliance. And boy, howdy, where are they going to go from here? But anytime I can see more Braun Breaker, I'll take it.
Well, we talked about WrestleMania, him losing the Intercontinental belt. He didn't get pinned. He just lost the belt. What are they going to do? Obviously, that's kind of a setup for we're going to elevate him past what IC title level is, kind of. And here you go. He's now mixing with the main guys, and he has Heyman as a manager. What more can you ask for?
Yeah, I just had to drop that pesky belt. Remember when guys always wanted to win the belt because that meant you were a top guy, right? Promoters could even give a guy a belt and pay him less and he'd be happy. But now everybody's got a belt, so you need to drop the belt sometimes so you can get in the money spot.
Not only do the wrestlers have belts, literally the celebrities they introduce walk out with belts. I saw more celebrities holding belts that they never won than I've ever seen before. It was a rarity. I remember there was one kid who used to go to the Nassau Coliseum when I was a kid, and he had like a bullshit belt. It wasn't even like a WWF replica. Yeah. It was just a wrestling title belt he got out of like a magazine, and he would hold it up like the wrestlers were going to see it and be like, it's the champ, or whatever they were going to say, but it stood out because no one had any belts. Now everyone has one.
Well, yeah, the fans have belts now because now that they make replicas and that's an actual business and this goes on, the fans now have belts that are much better looking than the actual goddamn wrestling belts from 40 and 50 years ago because I've had a number of them in my hands of both categories. And the real promoters' belts look like shit compared to these fucking things. They were beat up and pissed on and bled on and screws missing. I read the Southern Heavyweight title belt in Memphis for almost a year one time had a fucking decal of an eagle stuck on the front of it because the fucking metal eagle fell off.
Someone scratched the word stooge into the front of the Mid-Atlantic North America, Mid-South, the front of the Mid-South North American Championship.
Yes. Yeah, and Kerry Von Erich scratched his initials into the domed globe NWA World title belt. Oh, well, what are you scratching your initials in this week?
That was WWE Raw